Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's the Mad Hatter, reporting live from the depths of Black Matter. Now, I know a lot of motherfuckers is like, what? Black Lives Matter? No, I didn't say that. I said Black Matter. I'm talking about science, okay? Yeah, I think it's kind of funny how a scientist can't even say Black Matter now without being political. Like, it's like, what you saying, dog? You saying Michael Brown had his hands up? Nah, I ain't saying none of that. I'm just talking about Black Matter. But anyway, so what's going on recently is that on Monday in New Orleans, officials are removing Confederate monuments under police guard, according to the New York Times. A lot of outlets. So one of the monuments that workers worked to take down was a 1891 monument to honor members of the Crescent City White League who fought in 1874 in the Reconstruction era battle of Liberty Place against racially integrated New Orleans police and state media, or excuse me, state militia. So the reason why the government is saying that they're so a lot of the people had to be dressed in masks and they had to be dressed, in flak jackets to protect them. This is what the government says, to protect them, right, from onlookers and people in the South who got gats. You know, motherfuckers is armed in the South. We know this, but the government is saying this is why they're covering the identities of these people. Now, I find this really interesting. And anytime you cover the identity of somebody, I always find it really interesting. Like, if you're really in support of what you do, you're not going to hide who you are. That's just how I feel, right? Anyway, this is what the government says, right? That's why they're protecting people, to protect. They're protecting the contractors against people who might want to kill them over this, right? Crazy, crazy crackers. So other monuments being removed is a bronze statue of General Robert E. Lee in the traffic circle. Let's see. So there's another main monument that's really interesting to me. It's called it's the Liberty Place Monument, and in this monument, it was commemorated a violent uprising by white Democrats against the racial integration of the city's police force and the Republicans who governed Louisiana at the time. Obviously, the parties have flipped, but at the time, that was the case. According to the New York Times, the White League won the battle and forcibly removed the governor, but federal troops arrived 3 days later to return the governor to power. They say the battle remained an important symbol to those who resisted Reconstruction, the period of transformation Confederate states experienced after the Civil War. So this is what the plaque said on it, all the way up from 1932 to 1993. It said, quote, National election of November 1876 recognized white supremacy in the South and gave us our state. And then in 1993, the council voted to remove the obelisk, but instead of doing that, they just changed the words around to say, quote, in honor of those Americans on both sides who died in the Battle of Liberty Place, and called it, quote, a conflict of the past that should teach us lessons about the future. Now, this is obviously some, what's the word I'm looking for? This is obviously reconstructing history, right? Rebranding history, which I'm not in favor of. However, or to add to that point, what the government is doing now is almost on the borderline of rebranding history. Because not only are these people, like I said earlier, who are removing these statues, not only are these people dressed in masks and you can't see their identity, but the money that the government said that they raised, which was $600,000 in private funding to relocate these statues. We're supposed to trust the government, they're going to relocate these statues. We don't know where that money is coming from either. Now, this is where I come into like a weird you know, this is where I'm torn because I don't agree with these racist statues. Obviously, as a black person who has a history in this country where my people have been oppressed by the people of this country, I obviously don't like racism. However, I don't like the government coming in without being clear, without creating dialogue, and just removing things, without people really knowing where that stuff is going. Because I think that this should be really a part of history. Now, people will make the argument that, well, the Nazis lost the war and we just got rid of all their shit. I agree. I understand that, but I am a proponent of history, and I think that we should maintain history to a certain extent. And I'm also a proponent of freedom. If you want to have some racist ass shit in your city, in your town, you should have the freedom to have it. If that's what the people voted on, if that's what, the people you elected, and they agreed on that, then you should allow that. You shouldn't allow for these dark groups to come in to change that shit, right? So I'm torn. I'm definitely torn because I don't agree with it, but I do respect freedom of speech and freedom of, whatever you want to celebrate in this country. That's why I think that's what I think makes America so great. I guess that's where I want to leave that. Honestly, I have nothing else to really say about that. The situation is really interesting. Hopefully, these things will be placed into museums where people can learn from this and we can grow from this. But I think that we're going about this the wrong way, especially if you look at what happened in South Carolina with the Confederate flag. Now, they didn't ban the Confederate flag in South Carolina. They just said on the Capitol or on state grounds where taxpayers are paying for these things, you cannot have that. If you want to go down to Walmart, if you want to go down to your Piggly Wiggly and buy a Confederate flag, you can fucking do that, right? But taxpayers should not be supporting something that's so controversial to so many people. Now, you have black people who look at the Confederate flag as being a sign of oppression, but you have a lot of white people down there who look at the Confederate flag as being a representation of their heritage. So we got to find some middle ground for sure. And we do have to create a dialogue on this situation, on something that's very testy. And I'm not a supporter of, again, ironically, which is what the South was against this federal government or this larger entity coming in to tell them how they should run their shit. And that's kind of what's happening right now. You have all this money being raised privately. You don't know where it's coming from. You don't know who these contractors are because their faces are covered. And these people are coming into, this town, this city, and they're removing things that are part of their history. And it's ironic. So all I got to say is that this is definitely going to cause a lot of flared tensions. So we should definitely be careful of what's going on there. Pay attention to what's going to happen weeks later, days later, months later, years later, because this is not the right way to go about things. So I want to leave that there. I don't know. I'm trying to look at it from both sides. It's very difficult because it's a very emotional issue. It's a very emotional issue, but, that's where I want to leave that. So let me know what you guys think. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you don't like it, give it a thumbs down. You know the drill. Subscribe. I'll be trying to make more videos like this. And everybody, be blessed. God bless. Take it easy.